Hello and welcome to Basspick Reviews, and as promised I'm going to be doing my final thoughts on 13 Reasons Why. I didn't want to talk about one particular aspect, but kind of should, which is the season 2. And a lot of people don't like that idea, but I think my reasons could be slightly different. They could be the same because I haven't seen every review of 13 Reasons Why, but a reason why I don't like the idea of a season 2 was because this was Hannah's and Clay's story. It was Hannah dealing with all the stuff that was happening to her. It was Clay dealing with all the stuff that was happening to him, that he couldn't trust people and all that kind of stuff. And that's what this story was about. Now granted, season 1 did end on a cliffhanger, like a pretty big cliffhanger with a lot of stuff happening to all the characters that you didn't know what was going to happen. So obviously they wanted to make a season 2, which is completely fine. I'm not against anything that is designed to be over seasons or movies. For example, Back to the Future, which is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. That movie is designed to be over 3 movies, and you're supposed to watch them in the 3 movies. This is a little bit like 13 Reasons Why, as again, you watch from episode 1 to episode 13 and slowly see how things get worse. Or sometimes one random thing doesn't really happen, and that could have been like the first tape, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm not against the fact that they want to do a season 2, but I am against the fact that, because I read somewhere, again, I don't know if this is true or not, but Hannah's not going to be featured in it. Like, she's not going to be evident in it. Like, it's not her explaining why she did what she did. It's not like that. I don't really know what's happening in season 2, but to my knowledge, that's what Hannah's not really going to be in it. But this is going to be a very weird comparison, but I compare this to a little bit like Scrubs. And what I mean by that is when however many series Scrubs went for like 9 seasons or something like that, then they did another series. I don't know if it was a spin-off, I don't know what it was, but there was another series which had different characters in it, which was still called Scrubs, and it still had some of the original cast, but it didn't have JD in it. Scrubs was JD's story. It was him navigating the hospital, figuring out relationships, realizing that you have to work with someone who you once dated, dealing with a lot of emotions and just general life lessons he's slowly learning working in this hospital. Then when the new season came out, it was no longer JD's story, it was someone else's story, which was a bit similar, but it wasn't his. It was their perspective and not his. And I feel like that kind of ruined it a little bit, because again, this was JD's story. It was him trying to figure this out, and other people just kind of contributed to it a little bit. New season, granted I haven't really watched the new season of Scrubs. I've seen a couple of episodes, wasn't really a big fan of it, but I did discover it wasn't his story, it was someone else's, and didn't like that. And again, that's a really bad comparison to 13 Reasons Why, because they're vastly different. But the fact that Scrubs was JD's story, and 13 Reasons Why was Hannah's and Clay's story, and how basically, but the thing they do have in common is them trying to battle relationships, working, being around people that you might be scared of, or you don't really like, or that you love, or that you secretly want to be with, but you know you can't. And that was them dealing with that. And now they're going to bring these new people in. It may not work as well, because a lot of people are going to think of 13 Reasons Why and think of Hannah, and not whatever's going to be in season 2. But season 2 hasn't come out yet, so this is purely based on season 1. I'll have to see how season 2 kind of goes. So this has been dealt with before with the guy who wrote the poem, but I am going to be talking about the fact that Zach and Tyler, in my opinion, don't deserve to be on the tapes, purely because, like what I said in the first part of it with the actual review of it, Zach acted very out of character very quickly, again purely to move the plot along. He stole like compliments from her, which, you know, is still a bit of a douche thing to do, particularly when Hannah told him all this kind of stuff, which I first want to point out, why would you want to do that to someone who you don't know that well? Coming from an oversharer, don't take my advice from that, but just from seeing that, I was just like, honey, would you not want to tell Tony that? Would you not want to tell your parents that? Clay, counselor, one of those people, and not this guy who you yelled at and then expected for him and then got really confused when he yelled back at you. Like, you know what I mean? I felt like Zach, compared to what other people have done, like, Zach didn't really do that much. Like, he stole some compliments from her, and to quote her, he broke her spirit, which is, you know, still a huge thing to do to someone. But compared to Bryce and Justin and Jessica, they did kind of worse at things. And I know what you're thinking, what the hell did Jessica do? She slapped Hannah, she kind of sold Hannah just down the river. Is that a quote? Is that a thing? I don't know. But she kind of backstabbed Hannah a little bit. Even dare I say Courtney did something worse, which is, again, to quote Hannah, used Hannah as a shield and put Hannah under even more stress from people thinking that she's a lesbian or she's bi, which again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the fact that Courtney couldn't deal with that, so she thought, I know, I'm going to throw this girl under the bus to save me. That's a bit of a douche move. I'm not going to lie, that's a bit of a douche move. The other person I want to talk about is Tyler. I could be completely wrong. What did Tyler do before the tapes that was that bad? Now, don't get me wrong, stalking someone, all that kind of stuff, that's not okay. So don't get me wrong, stalking, all that kind of stuff, that's not okay. That's not cool. But even before that happened, in the flashbacks, Tyler was still getting picked on. And in my opinion, the reason for he's a nerd or he's just getting picked on, because he is a really bad reason. And also, you got to think of it like this, right? So Tyler is, to my knowledge, like maybe the 4th or 5th person on the tapes, right? So you have to think, so from the first tape to where his one was, he was getting rocks thrown out his window, and he probably had no idea why until he got these tapes. So, there's 13 of them. Well, there was actually 12 of them, but still. So you have to think that from when his tape was, from like number 4 and number 5, after he listened to all of them and realized what he did, and that would be like, okay, that's why people are throwing rocks at my window, you have to assume that he would then know that and expect like 6 or 7 more people, maybe 6 because he obviously won't throw a rock at his own window, but a few more people to be throwing rocks at him for doing that. Now, you're going to be doing that to someone who stalked someone who then did stop and not do that to a rapist. You're joking, right? I really hope that they're joking. And I actually personally liked Tyler. That sounds really weird because a lot of people hated him. I personally liked Tyler because he was picked on for absolutely no reason. Whenever he tried to join in a conversation, they said, no, go away. And in all honesty, that was mainly Courtney's move because he took photos of them, which is just weird. But he then stopped doing that and he felt bad because, again, you got to think of this. There's like 7 or 8 more people throwing rocks at his window, and then Clay took that photo of him. And then he gets even more ridiculed. He gets pushed up against lockers. He spills about the tapes, which is fine. And then just a lot of bad stuff happens to him. And you're thinking, they're not doing this to Bryce, who did something that's a literal crime, which stalking is still a crime. This sounds weird. He stalked her, but not in a scary way, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, it is scary. They were taking photos. But if you read some ones, they'll I've actually read this somewhere. Some guy broke into someone's house, stole their underwear, and to my knowledge, jerked off into it kind of thing. And they just followed them constantly. They were evidently just following them. And it's not cool. And all he did was just really take a couple of photos, which again is still creepy. But then he stopped. And then when Hannah asked for the photos back and he gave them to her, obviously he still kept one, she just laughed in his face and then walked away. And you're just kind of thinking, for someone who we're supposed to feel sorry for, you've done some bad stuff as well, not gonna lie. So I just feel like Tyler was really ridiculed against for no reason. We weren't given a reason for why he's hated for, because even in the first tape, before you even find out what he did in the flashbacks, he's still getting picked on, and you don't know why. So I would personally hope in season 2 that they actually go into depth of Tyler for why he's getting picked on, because I hope it's not just because he's getting picked on, because that's not a good reason. There needs to be a reason for why everyone's treating him so badly. Final thing is the relationship between Hannah's parents and Tony. And I don't mean between Hannah's parents and Tony, I mean Hannah and her parents and Hannah and Tony. What I mean by that is, for her parents and Hannah, I could be wrong here, but you seem to see more of her parents after Hannah's death than when she was alive, if that makes sense. It seemed to be very based on how, which is a completely fine thing, they seemed to be very focused on how they were dealing with it, how they still had to deal with the business, how they had to deal with the lawsuit, and how now they got these tapes in the final episode. But it didn't really seem to be focused on her parents and Hannah that much. Like, you didn't really see them interact that much, and if you did, it was for only like a couple of minutes. Like on Valentine's Day, when her mother gave Hannah a box of chocolates, on the prom when they got her a car, and when they got mad at her because she got rid of a deposit, like she left a deposit on the roof of her car or something like that. That's really all you only saw of them. You didn't really see them do much else. Like, you never really saw Hannah go to her parents for help, her parents talking to Hannah at all. You never really saw that, which I would like to see more of their relationship, because I think they seemed like a very strong, very good family, but you never actually really saw it, so it would have been nice. And then there's Tony, on the other hand, who for some reason Hannah just trusts with everything, and you don't actually see what he did for her to trust him so much. Now, you could make the argument that he was one of the few or one of the only people that wasn't a complete douche to her, who gave her like a jump start and gave her the tapes and all that kind of stuff, but you never actually saw him do anything. Like, you just kind of saw him just chilling. Like, it would also be nice to know their relationship so you could understand a bit more why it was so powerful, and why it also impacted him, and why he's helping the Bakers so much, and why he helps Clay, and why he helped Hannah. Because he says a lot that he helped her, but you don't actually see it. That's basically my gripes with 13 Reasons Why. But at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. Art is subjective, so don't be too protective. Basspick out.